We had seen last time that Krishna had revealed himself to Arjuna on his demand, on his request, when he said, "Ki, Lord, I understand, I accept whatever you tell me, but I long to see your true form." When he revealed himself, he was absolutely awestruck, but he was also started trembling because the form was so terrible. Then he tells Krishna that, Lord, please, although your form is so uh, glorious that even if 1,000 suns were to get together, their brightness could be, would be no match for you, and they will only very dimly project your glory. So as such, then he says, "Okay, Lord, hail to you from above, and hail to you from below, hail to you from all sides." He says, nothing can ever be enough for singing your praise. But Lord, he says, while I'm really overawed and I'm grateful to you for everything, but please, I keep troubling at this form of yours. So please come to me and in your benign form. So that time, Krishna then again he resumes his benign form. That time, now Krishna, now Arjun, really humbled, tells Krishna, "A thousand pardons, Lord, a thousand pardons. In my ignorance, I've treated you with as if you are a friend, and committed a lot of improprieties with you. Please pardon this devotee of yours, which has been and all these improprieties has been out of ignorance." Then Krishna tells him, there's nothing to forget between a devotee and the Lord, just like there's nothing to forgive between a father and son, or a lover and his beloved. Because in all these cases, love is the root is the basis for this relationship. And wherever there's love, there's no need for any there's no need for any pardon. Then Krishna, and then this Arjuna asked Krishna, uh, "Oh, Lord, what is better? In what form should you be worshipped? Should you be worshipped in a form, or should you be worshipped as a formless, impersonal absolute?" So Krishna tells him that no, uh, in either way, it is okay. If you worship me in a form, then you are very dear to me. If you worship me in a formless absolute, that also is dear to me. But that form, that is a little more difficult. So you worship me as a devotee would worship, be in love with me, that's all. So uh, then Krishna tells him that, look, there are very few people on this earth who are really keen to know the truth. Out of those who are keen to know the truth, that yearning is not there. Only some people will put in that effort required. And out of those some who put in the effort required, very few again will be able to know the truth. So he says, you try to know the truth as soon as possible. I've shown you the truth. I've shown you everything. Now it's up to you to decide whatever you want to do, and take your own decision. If, however, you do not, if, however, since I've shown you what is the truth, since I've explained to you the entire, uh, uh, the, since I've explained to you the truth and what are the various paths, whatever path you choose, it will come to me. Then Arjun says that suppose I'm unable to, complete my worship of you, or all the sadhana, or I falter somewhere, will all my effort goes to waste, will go to waste? Krishna says, no, no, nothing goes to waste. In this, in this, in this path, or in this, so whatever you do, whatever little you do, whatever little you put up, that all gets accumulated, and it will show its result in time. So therefore, you don't worry. You just do whatever you can, and leave the rest to me. When you get into uh, on your way to truth, then I will keep on clearing all the obstacles that come your way, and you will have no difficulty. Then Arjuna said, okay, Lord, then, yeah. Finally, Krishna tells him again, once again, that look, Arjun, I've given you all the knowledge that is required. And I've also shown you a form of mind which even the gods yearn to see. This primeval form of mind has not been seen by anybody, and it cannot be seen by anybody unless, except by one who has surrendered himself to me, one who has completely uh, wants to become one with me. So such a devotee is the one who can see this form. So you are one such devotee, and that's why I've shown to you. Now, having explained all this to you, go ahead and decide if have you listened attentively, have you understood whatever I've told you. If you have, then go out and do as you please. Then Arjun tells him, Lord, by your grace, all my doubts have been cleared. There's nothing more I wish to learn from you. There's nothing more to be known from you. You've cleared all my doubts. No, it's not that known from you. There's nothing more I want to know. You've cleared all my doubts. Then Krishna and I stand here firm to to battle with my opponent. And with that, he stands up, takes his bow in his hand, and is ready to fight. When he has taken the bow in his hand, his Gandhi in his hand, then Krishna takes his chariot and drives him back towards his position in the formation. Once the position in the formation was, once Krishna returns with Arjun back to his line, then Yudhishthir gets down from his chariot and crosses over on barefoot, on foot to the other side, and approaching Bhishma Pitama, the commander in chief, he says, uh, Grand Uncle, I've come seeking your blessing uh, and your permission. He says, I've come seeking your permission and your blessing. That permission is to fight with you, and your blessing is to win the war. So Bhishma is very pleased. He says, Yudhishthir, it's good you have come to me because uh, uh, our Guru, whenever he is to, uh, when our education is to be over, after Guru Dakshina, he would bless us with the blessing that as long as you hold a weapon in your hand, you will be you cannot defeat it. So it's good you have come to me and sought my permission and blessing. Thereafter, Yudhishthir goes to Dronacharya and to Kripacharya, and to both of them he pays his obeisance, and they also bless him appropriately, and then he comes back. And thereafter, the battle is ready to commence. I will stop here as far as the story is concerned. Like I had mentioned that this time or rather, what I propose to do is that from next time I'll continue the story itself. Today, I wanted to take something more important. A lot of questions were there. The most important of them was ego. What is ego? Ego, we all know. It is it's a I feeling. But ego is actually a faculty. The definition of ego is a faculty. One of three faculties that man has, the other two being mind and buddhi or intellect. These are three faculties. And what does this faculty do? Amkar or ego has two functions. One is it gives us our identity, and number two, it directs our actions and responses. So it gives us, because of ego, we have an identity, and because of our ego, we are able to direct our actions and responses. Now, how does this give us our identity? See, if you recall, I had mentioned earlier also that when Purush interacts with Prakriti, then Prakriti generates a form. It can be any form. Prakriti generates a form over a fragment of Purush, and that form can be of, it can be of man, it can be an animal, it can be a bird or fish, it can be a tree or a plant, or it can be a rock, or it can be a waterfall, it can be water, it can be air, it can be any form, it can be sun, moon, planets, it can take up any form. But all those forms will have a tiny fragment of Purush within itself. As far as the form is concerned, that form comprises of the body, then it comprises of three other faculties. The faculties are the mind, the intellect, and the amkar or ego. These three faculties are there. The faculty of mind is related to the interpretation of all the data, all the information that it gets through the senses. The faculty of intellect is there to process to uh, classify the responses in good or bad, or right and wrong, or dharmic and karmic. So this way it classifies it. Thereafter, that information goes to the ego or amkar, and the amkar then decides what should be what should the response, in what manner a response has to carry out, how much, etc., etc. So this is, but the uh, ego, when it wants to respond, it cannot do it by itself. It needs a power source. The Prakriti by itself cannot function. It does need Purush, because Purush is the power source. The It can be understood. Prakriti can be understood as a mechanical toy, electrically driven mechanical toy. That mechanical toy, if it is kept just like that, it won't function. But the moment it is connected to a battery or to a mainline source, or through Wi-Fi or whatever, then it starts functioning. So this is what Purush is, and the Prakriti therefore certainly needs the Purush every time for whatever act it carries out. But the act will always be carried out by Prakriti. It won't be carried out by the Purush. Now, the you've seen that the man has the what to say, when a human being, sorry, the three forms are there, the three faculties are there. These three faculties, along with the body, are all part of Prakriti, and therefore, just as much as Prakriti is real, so also ego is also very much real. Now you'll see some people saying ego imaginary here, it is non-existent, it is not real, etc. That's not true. If ego is not real, then even the mind is not real, then even the intellect is not real, then even the body is not real. Now, you might say none of them is real. That ultimately is true. But it is as real, but the ego is as real as today my body is, or today my mind is, or today my intellect is. If these are all real, then the Amkar is also real, or the ego is also real. Now, how does it give us our identity, or what is its task? See, when a child is when a child or not child, when a person dies, over its lifetime, it has carried out various acts, and all those various acts are stored in the memory, and the person has a memory. When the person dies, then the form will disintegrate, of course, but the rest of the thing, that is the ego, the mind, intellect, these things, they form the astral body. This astral body, the astral body will acquire a new body, a new form. It will enter into another body, human body, and all the astral body will enter into the new body, and there it will start functioning as a complete independent entity. Now, this the new body, where is it formed, or the new body which it has entered, would be in some different place, in some different situations, in some different circumstances. So it is necessary that all the past memories which are there of the previous life, they are removed. This is the job of the ego. अहंकार जो है, वो आपके past life की जितनी होती है उसको actually it doesn't really erase it. It only masks it. It covers it. But it is covered in such a way that it is very difficult to remove the mask. Nevertheless, this is what the ego does. And as far and once the ego has masked this past memories, then you can't readily recall it. But if you are taken to hypnosis under hypnosis or under the influence of some drug, there are some practitioners. Among them is in USA is there one gentleman called Dr. Brian White, who does what is called past life regression. He takes a person under hypnosis to his past life, and which will maybe not 10 years, 50 years, it may be 1,000 years also, so that people have gone to the times when they were nothing, they were, uh, during the times of the pyramid, and even before that. Of course, some of them have gone. There's no need for them to go so far back, but it just shows that all the memories of all the past lives are there with us. Krishna, in fact, one of the questions Krishna tells Arjun, rather Arjun asks Krishna, "How come you say you're there for you have given this knowledge to the Surya, Lord Surya? Surya is such a old, has been there for existence for so long, and you are only taken birth only now." So he says, "Yes, we are both born over and over again. While you have forgotten all your previous births, I remember them all." So that is why it is that we keep on taking birth after birth. But if we remember them, we most of us will not have the ability to be able to keep our past identities aside. And in the present, see, in every birth, we take up a different role, uh, a different role in different surroundings. And if we keep on mixing up with our past roles and past surroundings, then we are only going to make a mess of everything. So nature has so done that the ahamkar or the ego will first of all completely mask all the new thing, and then on top it will give you a new identity. How does this new identity develop? That new identity develops primarily when you are a little child, and primarily, when your impressionable age may have, very, very young. From that time it starts, from 6 months. The child starts getting impressions, color, movement, form, all these things. Then start recognizing faces, then start recognizing voice, then start identifying the voice of the mother with the face. Then it becomes to appreciate that the mother is calling this child. Then he starts associating the name with that name with himself. Like that, it keeps on his knowledge about himself keeps on growing. So this is the task of, and it keeps on taking up mannerism. It learns mannerism from the parents. It learns the knowledge. It gets acquired knowledge from the parents and others surrounding it. So that's how the identity, it develops his identity. Now, this thing, in fact, it's covered in section 8 in our book there, where I've given a lot about ego. How does it come? Why does it come? And that is simply, as I've explained to the mechanism also. Ego is one thing. Then the identity which comes also, I will discuss there I think it's section 25. Yeah, it is there in section 25, where it said, what is this identity? So this identity is through our, likes and dislikes, for example. Immediately you can be identified. These days we have got uh, Amazon, or we've got this YouTube, Flipkart, all these things. They've got computer, and the computer knows precisely that the moment I put on, I'm online, the computer will immediately give me something which is similar to my requirements, similar to my taste. It saves them, and it makes our life simpler because I have to choose much less. So our identity is very much defined by our likes and dislikes. Our identity is also defined by the company we keep, by along whom you meet. Our identity is defined by so many other factors such as our ideology, our food habits, our clothing habits, our color of skin. All this gives us our identity, and this identity is the task of the ego. Now, how to be so when the you see This is uh, the identity having been given by the ego. Then, whenever acts have to be performed, like I told you, the Ahamkar has got two tasks. One is to give you an identity, and this, when it gives us a new identity, it makes sure that all the old identity is forgotten. When it gives us new identity, then every time I'll be, I, a person dies, then that person identity is removed and a fresh identity is given along with the body. The other point is the ego also directs the body to perform the tasks that everyday to day task, etc. Now, for this, uh, the the flow of information data is as follows. The mind is the one which gets its impressions through the senses, the various organs of senses. And when it gets that impression, the mind uh, makes try to process all the data impression that it gets from the five sense organs and tries to make sense of it out of it. When it has made sense, then that information is passed on to the intellect or buddhi. The intellect will classify it, whether it is good or bad, whether it is right or wrong, whether it is dharmic or karmic. Once it is classified in this manner, thereafter it gives it to the ego. Ego now will decide whether in what manner it has to be processed, whether to it wants to. Now, the ego, there are three ways of processing it. Action that will emanate out of as a response to whatever input you given. Those three are: one, that the response may emerge out of our nature or uh, our nature or our guna, what they call guna means quality trait. In fact, as far as before we come to the human being, let's see what happens in the case of animals. In the case of animals, also the process is the same. When inputs are there upon the mind of the animal, then it has certain likes and dislikes. Then from the mind of the animal, also it goes to what they call its own intelligence, and thereafter it comes to uh, it has to be processed, turned into action. That action it does through its instinct. Now, either it does through its instinct or it does through its guna or quality, this nature. But animal has no choice in this matter. All the action that has to emerge will emerge almost automatically, whether it's working out of instinct or whether it's acting out of its guna or trait. It has no choice, and it will function as per these two items, two qualities. As far as human being is concerned, they're a little different. You have a choice of action, you have free will, and because you have choice of action and free will, it is necessary that we carry out our actions in full knowledge. In our human being, the cases can be three. One is that we work out of our gunas or traits, nature. As per our nature, we keep on acting or acting. When I say acting, I mean you have to perform certain acts. So those acts are performed according to our nature, according to our very being. Second is that the act is performed out of our ego, you know, because all information has to eventually go to the ego. So that is, an ego is always want more, want bigger. It is want based. It is driven by wants, and the yeah, the ego is always wanting more and more. Why does the ego want more and more? Ego wants. You see, Prakriti is aware of the absolute majesty and glory of Purush. It is in fact Prakriti, although it exists simultaneously along with Purush. It is essentially a part of Purush. because where the Purush can remain independent, and it does not need the presence of Prakriti to be there. Prakriti does need Purush. Without the Purush, it cannot exist. So Purush, as far as the Prakriti is concerned, uh, it needs Purush. But as far as Purush is concerned, it does not need the Prakriti. So in that sense, it is a part of uh, Purush. Otherwise, it is said that they are both existing eternally. Now, yeah. So as far as committing acts are concerned, all these acts are committed by, are carried out by the Prakriti. And Amkar, being a faculty of Prakriti, has the responsibility of carrying out the acts which are there. So all my acts, for example, or the acts of every human being, is in fact carried out only by Amkar or ego. Now the problem is here that the ego, like I said, it wants more and more, bigger and bigger. So if for that purpose also, the ego wants it for selfish purposes. Now this ego is really, what you might say, mounted over the instinct of the animal, because we are also really animal. Our instinct is survival. So survival, for survival, we have to be egoistic. We have to, when a dead animal is lying there in the forest, then all the other animals who feed upon that animal will immediately gather together. Let's say, for example, uh, hyena, or if it's a lion has killed, pride of lion, one of them has killed a big buffalo, then all of them will, all the other members of the pride will also move toward and start eating that dead animal. Now here, everybody is simultaneously eating. There's no question of first come, first serve, or pile up is not there. Everybody, in a way, is selfish. They're looking after themselves. They're not looking after somebody else. So that is what the ego does. Now, but there's a third thing where the ego, if it is suppressed, then once the ego is suppressed, then all the actions that the body will be carrying out will be through the consciousness. Consciousness by itself will not carry out any action, but it influences such that it directs only dharmic acts to be carried out. Dharmic act means that they do not bind you. And if you have got any act which is still not fructified, then the dharmic act can in fact neutralize this and liberate you, set you free. So this is the two functions which the ego carries out. Now, another thing which I wanted to share with you was related to dharma. What is dharma? We have seen. We have, it's a difficult concept to understand, and in various ways, dharma has been defined. And one of them is that dharma just means the law of being, to be. You have to just be yourself. That is dharma. Somebody else has said that uh, that principle which keeps the equilibrium in the universe, which maintains the equilibrium. Another somebody said that that by which you become one with nature. So like that, so many definitions have been given. But when it comes to action, what action should you take so that it is dharmic? For that, you said that it should be selfless acts, acts that are not motivated. You have no axe to grind, acts that are not for which you are not yearning for any specific results. And acts, so when you commit these kind of actions, these are dharmic acts. They do not bind you, they will liberate you. But most of the time, we will not be able to carry out these things. Most of our acts are all selfish acts, and therefore we are bound. Dharma जो है, uh, dharma can release us, but karma acts which bind us, they bind us here. कर्मा के लिए कहा जाता है In fact, I came across this definition given by, not definition. He has tried to, Swami's explained this like this. He said, Dhar also amongst means to uphold or to sustain, but it also means to wear. So dharma is actually worn. So dharma has got two aspects. One is honor and one is dignity. So when you wear dharma, you have dignity and honor, both of them. At least you will have, even if you are not fully clothed, then too you will have your dignity. Now go back to that Chir Haran, Draupadi was being stripped, trying to strip. She had only one piece of clothing upon her, one piece of cloth in which she was wrapped. That is the dignity. So dharma is really dignity and honor, and that is the very fundamental or the base upon which uh, all other uh, all other traits rest. So that we should never, our dignity we should never uh, allow to be lost, both metaphorically and literally also. When we say dignity, dignity by dignity we mean dharma. Carry out those acts which are dharmic acts, and it should not be allowed to be uh, carried, taken away. That is the dharma. And so with this Duryodhan, when he, or rather Dushasan, when he was trying to strip this, he was what he was trying to do is as a metaphor that he was trying to remove the dharma which every individual has. So wickedness, the most wicked act that you can do is to deprive a person of his dharma which is wearing. Of course, the clothing which is wearing also represents faith. So faith bhi hai, dharma bhi hai. But dharma is very basic, and it should never be allowed to be lost. You should never give up dharma on for whatever there is. If you don't give dharma, if you act your life according to dharma, then whatever act you commit, you will not be bound. It will not be no repercussions will be there, and you will be set free. There are several other questions, but I think I'll post it on the WhatsApp. And yeah, I made out a long list of, not long list, but several questions which I thought I would share with you. But I think I'll post it in the WhatsApp, and there, let's see what response we get. Then we can discuss this on the WhatsApp group. For example, uh, ego and dharma I have covered here, but there are others. For example, what is the difference between, we have covered this Bhagavad Gita completely. And if you notice, even in the Bhagavad Gita, all the six schools of Vedic thoughts are there. It starts with Nyaya, Visheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. There, all of them are there. And it lives all the three, four paths. That is the path of karma, the path of dharma, the path of jnana, path of devotion, and the path of the royal path. All these four paths are there. So, and like Krishna says, whatever path you choose, you come to me. So, these are the questions that I wanted to ask. What is the difference between the our Vedic, Indian Vedic religion and the Abrahamic religion? What is the difference between these two primarily? Similarly, what is the difference between Vedic or Hindu religion and all other religions? There's something very unique about the Hindu religion. This we shall discuss this on the WhatsApp group. Okay, I think I'll stop here now and request any questions.